Hello, my friends. My name is Post-Production Pie, Editor-in-Chief for srlounge.com. Welcome to another installment of our weekly Ordinary to Extraordinary Raw Edit featuring the Lightroom preset system V5. Now, as always, we're going to be demonstrating how to create these effects using the preset system first, and then we'll be going through the actual settings just to help everybody understand what's going on behind the scenes for a particular look and effect. So that way, everybody that's watching this video can benefit from the tutorial. If you are interested in learning more about the SR Lounge Lightroom preset system, then just click the link below in the description. It'll take you right over to the SR Lounge store. And well, that's it for me, so let's get started. Now, in this video, we're going to be going over a high contrast look for our images. And high contrast looks are something that I absolutely love. They're very popular among photographers. It's just a stylistic choice, but there's certain times where I just have to have that look over an image. And oftentimes, these are images that basically have background flares. They have a loss of contrast due to extra amounts of light going into the camera. And they're scenes that are very basically fun, energetic. They're scenes that adding that high contrast look really brings out the life of an image, okay? So here we have the scene here with this sparkler exit at a wedding, and let's check out the information. This was shot on a Nikon D700. I believe this was shot either by, I think it was shot by Elmer, one of our guys, either shot by Elmer or Matt, but both of them are incredible photographers. They work with us, and it was shot on a 85mm f1.8 lens. It was shot at 1/80th of a second and at f1.8 and at ISO 6400. So seeing the ISO at 6400, we do note that we're going to have quite a bit of grain. We can zoom in there and check it out. But what's lovely, actually, that looks really nice. Gotta love the D700. D700, D800, amazing noise, even at incredible high levels, so 6400 is still completely usable. But the great thing about a contrast crush, even when you're doing like a scene like this at high ISOs, is that bringing down all the shadows and everything are going to kind of help eliminate some of the grain in the image. So what we're going to do is jump over to our base soft category, and because this is a portrait, I'm going to go with the light crushes with skin desaturation. So these are basically the high contrast versions of our softer presets. So they have more blacks, they just crush it. And it's great to flip back and forth between them to see which ones you like. Now, of course, could you use the vivid crush versions? Yes, but the vivid crush versions don't have adjustments for skin tones. So if you apply this, it's going to have kind of crazy skin tones in the image. Whereas if we switch back, you can see that the heavy crush, we have more natural skin tones, and it just looks a little bit better overall. But if it's your style to have kind of that more saturated poppy look to the image, then you might want to go with a vivid crush. That's also why we don't call it soft portrait and vivid landscape anymore, because it's really kind of universal. If you want a softer look, choose these presets. If you want a more vivid look, you choose these ones. All right, so this heavy crush looks great. Again, following the BCAS format, we choose a base preset, which gets you pretty much done in most cases, and right now we're pretty much done. But if you did want to make additional curves or adjustments or special effects, you'd follow that format. For us, this looks absolutely great right now. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to make some adjustments to my temperature. Let me hit I just to turn off my information, by the way. I forgot to do that. And it is bothering me. Now with Nikon, if you're shooting Nikon, then you know that in general, Nikon images come out a little bit more green. The skin tones aren't quite as pleasant coming straight out of the camera as a Canon camera. But there, of course, are advantages both ways and disadvantages both ways. Nikon files are absolutely beautiful when it comes to low light and grain and everything. So all we're going to do is just adjust that. So because they come out green, I'm going to bring my tint up quite a bit. So let's go up to about +20, and then let's start bringing back the temperature. And you'll start noticing that we get a much more kind of just rich tone to the image. We get a much more rich warmth as opposed to that green warmth, which I really don't like. But right around 26, 2700, again, this is going to be the stylistic point where you're going to choose what you feel like fits better for this particular scene. But I love this. I think it looks great. So we are done. All we did was choose a base, and we just dialed in our temperature. Our everything else looks great. Exposure looks awesome. Let's zoom in and take a look at sharpness and noise. And the amount of noise in here right now is very acceptable for me. If I wanted to, I could go in and adjust it more. You'll notice that with the crushes, we do have still a little bit of that softening of the noise, just because it's a portrait preset. So there is a little bit there. And I'm not going to actually boost it because I feel like it looks completely fine. So for my taste, it's good. The one thing I'm going to do is, this is a Lightroom 5 thing, but you could do this in Lightroom 4 as well, because they're sitting there in the center of this image. So all I want to do is basically use a radial filter to kind of make them a little bit more bright than everything else in the image. Again, since they're in the center, you could accomplish a very similar thing just by pulling in the vignetting, but we're not going to have as much control over that. So let's just do this inside of our radial filter. So that's selected. All I did was choose a burn. We're going to pull this out right from the center, and what I want to do is kind of elongate a little bit. So we're kind of keeping the entire center a little bit more bright. And then from here, we can basically just adjust the feather. So I'm going to pull the feather a little bit down. Let's go about 70. And that's looking really solid. So with just a couple clicks, you guys saw how easy that was. We went from basically the original image, which is this, to this. Looks great, looks awesome. I'm digging it. If you guys want it a little more pink, a little more green, well, I'm gonna leave that up to you. But let's go over the settings of what we've done here. So with contrast, we boosted contrast. We already went over temperature tint. We didn't make any exposure adjustments. With the highlights, we're dropping it, and with the whites, we're dropping it because again, this is still a skin tone or a portrait preset. So we wanna kind of flatten out a bit of those highlights just a bit. With shadows and blacks, we're absolutely crushing it now. We're pulling it down quite a bit. And if you look at the shadow levels, if you check out what's being clipped, you'll notice a lot of stuff is being clipped in this image, but it's okay. I'm totally fine with that because this is a stylistic image. We're not processing this to be color correct. We're processing this with a style that fits the mood, this kind of high contrast mood, this energetic mood. And with dance floor scenes, with scenes like this, I love that crushed look. Okay, and you'll notice this if you look at like Hollywood film. If you have that kind of vibrant party vibe, you'll see that the colors are all sorts of wonky in those types of scenes. So again, produce for the scene, not because you think something should be correct, okay? So produce always to emphasize the scene. With clarity, we have -10. Vibrance is again -5, -5, and we have that same HSL adjustment for skin tones. With our tone curve, we have that subtle S curve that boosts overall contrast. And then down in detail, we have our same sharpening settings at 70, 1.5, 10, and 30. Noise reductions at 15. If we want, we could boost it, but I don't want to because I want to keep that detail. And I like the grain. I feel like it adds a lot of extra kind of genuineness or extra, what's the word? It's just more real. Authenticity. That's the word I'm looking for. I found the word. Usually I can never find the word I'm looking for. All right, so lens vignetting is at 30. This is what you would want to adjust if you want to create that center radial effect that we did. Again, the only difference is you can control the midpoint just like you would the radial filter, and you can control the amount just like you would the radial filter. What we're not being able to control is the location. So the only time that this works is when the subjects are directly in the middle of the frame. All right, that's it for our settings, and we have finished another Ordinary Extraordinary edit. Hopefully you all dug it, and I'll see you all in the next video.